Sorry to interrupt there, Chair. Peter, are we recording? Fantastic. Thanks, Peter. Sorry, Chair.
That's fine. All set. Good evening. My name is Councillor Ajmer Gariwal, and I'm the chair of the Central Area Forum. And it's 7 o'clock now, and I'd like to welcome you all to this virtual meeting of the Central Hounslow Area Forum. I'd like to welcome the members to the forum who are sitting this evening, as well as council officers who will be assisting members throughout the meeting. In addition, I would like to welcome members of the public who are watching this meeting at home. And a very happy new year to everyone, first of all. This is our first meeting of 2022, so happy new year. As you may all know, virtual meetings for decision-making council businesses are not legal, but as a result of the coronavirus pandemic, it was agreed that this area forum would be held virtually as there are no formal decisions on the agenda. The way this meeting will work will be that as chair, I will be running the meeting and inviting people to speak. As it is very easy for people to speak over each other in this meeting, I will ask each member or officer to speak in turn at the appropriate stage. I will ask each member or officer to speak in turn at the appropriate stage. What am I doing? Repeating myself. This will mean that there should normally be no need for people to interrupt or to speak over each other. However, I shall make sure that members have ample opportunity to ask questions and make comments on the reports and applications before them. The exception to this arrangement will be the council officers who may turn on their microphone to alert me to any procedural or constitutional issues that need addressing, although I would expect this to be a very rare occurrence. In addition, we have producer of the meeting from our IC department who may also contact me if necessary, but I think it is unlikely if all goes well, as we all hope it will. The etiquette for members of the area forum and for officers who are expecting to speak will be to mute your microphones until you are asked to speak. This means that only one person will be speaking at a time, and there will be no background noise, making it easier for us all to follow the meeting and also for those watching at home. I will also ask members to say who they are when they make a contribution and to speak slowly and clearly for the same reasons. In addition to members, we also have guest speakers. So we have one from Metropolitan Police to present the local policing reports and answer questions. And that's Sergeant Nottage. And we have Aretha George, Cultural Manager, Strategy and Delivery, to talk about the upcoming Summer of Culture. Danielle, Edmund and Louisa with her to make a presentation on emerging Hounslow character and design codes. And Kate Wilson, Thriving Community Fund Manager, to give an update on the Council's grant funding programmes. What I would like to do is, before I introduce everyone, all members, I would like just to say that today, 27th of January, is National Commemoration Day in the United Kingdom, dedicated to the remembrance of the Jews and others suffered in the Holocaust under Nazi persecution. So, on this date, of course, it is remembered Holocaust Memorial Day has been supported by the Holocaust Memorial Day Trust, a charity set up funded by the government. And the theme for Holocaust Memorial is Be the Light in the Darkness, as we remember everyone who has perished. So our sympathies and thoughts and prayers are with all those who perished in the Holocaust, and our thoughts and prayers are with everyone who's commemorating Holocaust Day. And now what I would like to do is to introduce each of the members here tonight one by one. So, as I said, I'm Councillor Ajmer Gariwal, and I represent Hounslow Central Ward, and I am the chair of this area forum. I will invite everyone to speak, to introduce themselves ward by ward, but I will start with my vice chair first of all. So can you please turn on your camera and introduce yourself, Bandra Jobrak, please. Councillor Jobra, my vice chair, can you introduce yourself, please? I've got it written here as, I'm so sorry, Karen.
It's Karen,
It is
yeah.
Karen Smith, isn't it? Yes, why?
Yeah.
Sorry, here it is. I'm just as bad as the officers because they've time. Sorry, Karen Smith, please, my vice chair.
Councillor Chopper smiling.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Karen Smith. I'm councillor for Hounslow South and I'm vice chair of this forum.
Thank you. It's because Bandra was vice chair for so long, we still assume that she's going to be vice chair forever. Sorry, Karen. So sorry about that. Okay, so next we will introduce
Me, because already called me.
From Hounslow Central Ward. Councillor Pritham Gariwal.
Hi, I'm Councillor Pritham Gariwal from Hounslow Central Board.
Thank you. And Councillor Nisar Malik, who has sent his apologies, is the other councillor there. And of course, as I say, I'm the third one. Hounslow Heath Ward, Councillor Vikram Gariwal, please.
Good evening, Chair. My name is Councillor Vikram Garwal. I'm a councillor from Hounslow Heath Ward.
And Councillor Afzal Kiani, please, to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Chair. This is Councillor Afzal Kiani and I represent Hounslow Heath Ward.
Thank you. And we go to Hounslow South Ward, as Karen Smith, as the Vice Chair, has already introduced herself. Councillor Tom Bruce, I think, has given apologies for lateness.
Yeah.
Or are you here, Councillor Bruce?
Yeah,
He will be later.
He will,
You missed
yeah.
Councillor Madiha from.
So,
It's not
okay.
on the stage, yes.
It isn't written here. So
Thank you very much,
let's
Chair.
go back to Hounslow Heath. Sorry, there's so many mistakes in here today. Councillor Madiha Hasim, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good evening, everyone. My name is Councillor Madiha Hasim, and I too represent the Hounslow Heath Ward. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I'm getting red-faced with all these mistakes already. Sorry. Okay, so we go to Hounslow South Ward. Councillor Mehriban, please. Shaida Mehriban.
Shaida Mehriban, councillor for Hounslow South.
Thank you. And last but not least, Hounslow West Ward. Councillor Sharma.
Councillor Jagdish Sharma, represent Hounslow West Ward. Good evening, everybody, and wish everybody a Happy New Year.
Thank you. Councillor Chopra, please.
Hi there, Councillor Chopra, Councillor Banna Chopra for Hounslow West Ward, and happy to be here and Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you. And Councillor Sohan Samra, please. Can you unmute yourself, please, Councillor Samra?
You're mute, Councillor Samra.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can now.
Councillor Sohan Samra from Hounslow West. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And so those are the members in the area forum today, this evening. And what I would like to know, like to do before we start, is to introduce our speakers as well, our guests. So first of all, Sergeant Catherine Nottage. Good evening, welcome.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. So I'm Sergeant Catherine Nottage. I cover Hounslow Central and Hounslow South out of the 4 wards here tonight. I'll just be giving you a short input onto the policing priorities tonight.
Okay, we'll be with you in a little while. Thank you so much. And Aretha George, we have with us.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Aretha George. I'm the Culture Manager for Hounslow and leading on this year's Summer of Culture. So look forward to talking about that soon.
Fantastic. And we have Danalee, Edmund and Louisa, I think. So Danalee first.
Yeah, hi, hi everyone. My name is Dan Liedman. I'm the head of spatial planning, and we're here today to talk about our emergent character and design SPD. Louisa?
Yep, hi, I'm Louisa. I work in Dan Lee's spatial planning team. Yep, happy to be here. Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you for being here. And of course, Kate Wilson. Hello.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me along today. I'm just going to talk a little bit later on about the Thriving Communities grant funds because I'm one of the grants managers here at the council.
Fantastic, lovely, thank you. And I'd like to invite our APO and clerks to introduce themselves briefly, please. So, John.
Hello, my name's John Wyman White. I work for the Council's Community Partnerships Unit, and I'll be helping the administrative team to manage this evening's meeting.
Thank you. And Bill, of course, we have Bill Lee. Hello.
Good evening. I'm Bill Lee from Democratic Services, clerk to the panel this evening. And it is my fault you're all here early, but as I said earlier, it was in case of technical hitches, so sorry about that.
No problem, no problem. And of course, we also have officers acting on producing role of the technical side of the meeting, but as they're not expected to be involved in the discussions of the meeting, I'd just like to thank them for their help, but ask them not to introduce themselves. So thank you very much for that. And before we go any further, can I just make sure that everyone has muted their microphones again, please? So members of the public are reminded that the agenda and all the items being discussed by the Area Forum tonight can be found on the Council website under the Central Hounslow Area Forum meetings page. So if you want to see them, that is where to look. I also want to make sure that all the members have seen the agenda. So please speak now if you have not seen the agenda. So I take it everyone has. Thank you very much. And as I say, before we go any further, I'd also like to say that if you should find you're having technical problems and need to log out of the meeting and come back in again, please let me know immediately when you're back by turning on your microphone. Okay, this would be a permitted interruption. We can then decide how far we need to recap if that's necessary, or if the member needs to not vote on that particular item. And finally, I would say to any member of the public listening or watching, thank you for joining us this evening. And we hope that the meeting will go well, but any virtual meetings may suffer from unexpected technical hitch, so please bear with us. I should also clarify that this meeting is being recorded and it will be made available on the Council's YouTube channel in the next few days. Contributors to the meeting are asked to remember that they will therefore be included in the recordings of this public meeting. And so thank you for listening to all that. And now, of course, we can move on to the first agenda on the first item on the agenda, sorry. So apologies for absence. I have apologies from Councillor Nisar Malik. Any more apologies? No.
Councillor Tom Bruce for lateness, I think he's joining us late. He's in the cabinet briefing meeting.
Okay. Any more? That's it. That's good. So I just want to confirm that the quorum for the area forum is 4, and of course we're much more than 4, so we're perfectly quorate. Thank you. So agenda item 2 is, of course, the local policing update. And as I said, we have Sergeant Nottage with us, who will present the reports briefly. And I'm sure we don't have to go through all the reports because most of the members have read their own ward reports. So Sergeant Nottage, I pass it over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening again. No, I wasn't intending to go through the ward profiles that have been sent to you already. I was just asked just to speak briefly about the policing priorities for Hounzo going forward this year. So I'm sure, as you're all aware, we've got a new borough commander on West Area. Chief Superintendent Sean Wilson joined at the end of last year. The neighbourhood teams met with him last week. And obviously the top priority for the Met Police and Hounzo going forward at the moment is obviously violence. Gang-related violence, youth-related violence, and knife-enabled crime is what we're going to be obviously concentrating on as our top priority this year at the moment. I'm sure you're all aware there's been a number of murders over the West area and several in Hounslow, and so this is where we're going to be concentrating our work on the wards and across the BCU as a whole. This month we've been doing a violence reduction month of activity, which is involved us trying to catch up with our outstanding suspects for violence, doing a lot of weapon sweeps in the common areas and areas where we've had violent crime and knife crime, looking for any weapons and knives that have been hidden in public places, arresting suspects. We've been doing some plainclothes initiatives. The schools officers, obviously it's very important as in relation to this violence that the schools officers get into the schools and speak with young people about violence and knife-enabled crime. So they've been doing knife crime presentations, as well as utilising knife arches at schools. We've been doing obviously our usual business of street briefings, and talking about the issues there. And obviously, we're well aware that knife crime is a problem for the whole of London at the moment. We need to educate and try and get these knives and weapons off the street. And so this is what we're tackling going forward at the moment. Also, gang-related crime is behind a lot of the things we see on our street. The possession with intent to supplies. There's gangs, organised gangs behind all those. The cannabis factories we're finding on the wards that are popping up in residential streets. Even catalytic converter thefts will be gang related in the means that they're quite organised groups coming onto the BCU and into our sector and committing crime, as well as brothels. All these things obviously are all related and are part of the bigger picture that we're trying to address going forward. So that's our main priorities going forward, and I think you'll agree that it has to be our number one priority with the way things are at the moment. I just want to touch on, obviously, I'm sure you're all aware of the town centre team that is coming into play, that comes live on the 14th of February, which I'm hoping, obviously, the town centre has always been a hotspot for violent crime, and we're hoping that obviously the introduction of the town centre team is going to make a real difference to the lives of the communities going forward. For those of you that aren't aware, it's going to be led with 1 inspector, 3 sergeants and 21 PCs. So that's 3 teams of 7 that will be on. They will be working on a Monday and Tuesday. They will cover the hours of 9 to 7. On Wednesdays and Thursdays, they will be covering from 9 AM to 11 o'clock at night. And then on a Friday, Saturday, we'll have cover from 9 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock in the morning to cover the nighttime economy that causes us issues in the town centre as well. And then Sundays, they'll be working 9 to 7. So from going from one team of Hounslow Central with 4 PCs to 1 PCSO, you can see this is a huge increase in officers that I'm hoping is going to make a huge difference in the coming months. So that's very, very important for us. The other thing I would just like to touch on, I don't know if any of you have heard of Street Safe at all, but obviously it's something you can look at on the internet, and if there's areas within your wards or areas that your residents or communities have highlighted as being somewhere they feel unsafe or dangerous, they can anonymously input onto this database, and it gives them the opportunity to say what it is about that location they find worrying, or why it's a high crime, or why they feel in fear of crime. And we can log these all on a map. And so we can make sure that these are areas we're aware of, and if we're not aware of them, that we can work with the local authority to make those places safer if lighting's an issue or they just look unloved and full of litter, and make these places somewhere where people aren't scared to walk at night time, etc., which we're mapping and looking at on a week-to-week basis. So that's been really interesting so far, and obviously we intend to work with the design out crime officers to make changes to those locations going forward. In relation to neighbourhood policing, I know the last time I was at this meeting, we had a lot of vacancies within neighbourhood policing on a lot of the wards. And I'd just like to update you that the majority of our posts are now filled with new staff. So hopefully you will each see a benefit on your wards going forward. We have a new sergeant that's come into post in the last few weeks that's going to cover Hounslow West and Hounslow Heath. That's Sergeant Michael Binns, if you haven't heard of him already. And that's just basically a brief oversight of what's happening and what we're going to be targeting going forward. If anybody's got any questions.
Thank you so very much for that. That's good news all around, but the town centre team coming in is just wow. When we heard about it, we jumped up and down. So I want to thank you for the report, but I want to thank the police force, the borough commander, for our new town centre team. That's really, really good news. Thank you. Okay, and with that, we'll go to questions if members have any questions. May I please remind all members to introduce themselves each time they speak and also turn off their microphones when they have finished speaking. It's also important to speak slowly and clearly so that everyone can understand what you're saying. And okay, so I am going to invite councillors to speak alphabetically. I've got the list, okay? But as Vice Chair, Karen Smith can go first. So Karen, any questions?
Hi, not a question, but I would just like to say thank you. The police helped my friend's son get his bike back that had been stolen this week. So that's a nice little good news story and made a young man very happy. Thank you.
Always happy to hear good news stories.
That's great. So with that, we move on. Councillor Bruce is still not with us, so we'll go to Councillor Jobra, please. Any questions? Hello, Councillor Jobra, any questions?
No, sorry, I was just trying to unmute. No questions, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Pritham Gariwal, any questions?
Just a comment, Chair. Like you said, getting 21 new officers is a very, very welcoming news for Hounslow Centre, for our ward. And I will say it's good to see more police officers working in my ward, Hounslow Central. It's really, really appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, we move on to Councillor Vikram Gariwal.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Vikram Gaurav, Hounzo Heath. Really pleasing to hear that the vacancies have been filled, because that was definitely a theme of the last meeting, that there were a lot of vacancies and obviously a dire need for a lot of officers, or bobbies on the beat, if you want to call it. So that's good to hear. In my ward of Hounzo Heath, there is a bit of a trend of drug use on the corner of Munster Avenue, which relates to a particular venue or a shop there on the parade. I won't mention the name, but I'm happy to go into it offline. So I think more regular patrols on that spot will see more than just 2 events of Class A or cannabis being caught in possession of males there. Let's put it that way. Just a question I had also about the Heath. So when I walk past there every other evening, I see a lot of parked cars there at night. So have we seen any antisocial behaviour or any arrests or confiscation of drugs or what have you from the Heath car park in recent times?
I don't cover Hounslow Heath, so I don't know the answer to that question. But if I get in contact with the team and ask them to contact you in relation to the drugs at Munster Avenue, and they'd be a better place to answer that question for you. But I do know, obviously, there is always a certain element of ASB in drugs on the Heath because of the size and the location. It's very attractive to the people taking drugs or dealing drugs. But if I get the team to email you direct, and then they can speak and bring that up with you personally. Is that okay?
Thank you. That'd be most helpful. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And we move on to Councillor Afzal Kiani. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to raise the same concern. You know, quite a few residents contacted me regarding the Munster Avenue. There is a venue at Munster Avenue, which I won't name it, but I think we need more police presence there. So at least the residents are comfortable with that venue. So I request that more visibility on police force on street is on Munster Avenue and in Hounslow Heath is required.
Okay, I'll feed that back. I mean, I would imagine the team are aware of that location, but I'll just make sure it's highlighted and they are aware.
Thank you.
Councillor Shaida Mehriban.
I mean, you're talking about the extra police for Hounzo Centre, and I think that's such a good idea. And I think it's something that really is needed in our borough, especially the High Street. Secondly, I met up with the team in Hounzo South, and it was a really good meeting, and we showed them some of the areas that are key to some of the crime that's happening in South. And even though during the winter, crime numbers seem to be going up, but I think it wasn't too bad this sort of period. However, while we're walking out and about in Hounzo South, I haven't really seen their presence much. So I don't know how often they are walking Hounzo South. Perhaps if we could just have some, you know, sort of link as to how often they're walking. I know they told us that they're walking sort of every single day, but we haven't seen them out and about. Perhaps we could get an update. But well done for all the work you're doing, and extra policing in the High Street sounds brilliant. Thank you.
Can I just say, Hounzo South in particular do walk every day on their patch. They do a lot of considerable walking, and they've been making special efforts over the last couple of months to be as visible as possible, and do a lot of street briefings and community events. So hopefully you will bump into them soon.
Well, I hope so. Sorry, through the chair. Yeah, I hope so, because it is a really good sign, you know, to see the police out and about. And really our residents, that's the one thing they keep saying, that we should have bobbies who are actually walking the beat on a daily basis. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sharma, Jagdish Sharma. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I am very pleased to read the statistics regarding vehicle crime and burglaries. Their number has gone down, so I thank the police force for that. But for the drugs, it is a problem in my ward. Sometime in the Beavers Park, and also on the in front of the shopping parade and there they come and play cards and all sorts of things. But I think I always remind the police force after the month of April that in summer we have this problem. This problem is rather very serious sometimes. So I am request the commander to that if she could make a note of that. And also, the children going to the park these days, days are shorter. Sometimes the ladies, 2-3 ladies ask me that we used to see police occasionally. Are they still coming and having a look, or will they be visible when children go home or go to school? I think I am sure officers are there. I have seen once or twice officer on the Martin Day Road. But as far as the park is concerned, I will appreciate if the commander could ask the force that to just assure the ladies who are going to school and bringing their children back home, small children, they will be very happy to see the police force sometime, whenever they can come to the park. But otherwise, Chair, nothing at present. But I will certainly be very happy to meet if our local police officers, they used to come occasionally to at least once every term to meet us and have a chat for 5-10 minutes, I will welcome that again, that if the officers can find time, and we will be happy to support them in any way we can. Thank you.
Councillor, if I email the team, ask them to get in contact with you direct to arrange a meeting and a walk around, would that be good?
Yes, that will be nice.
And can I just ask, you said something about a parade of shops, but I didn't quite catch what location that was.
Sorry?
I thought you said something about a parade of shops.
Yes, I think our shopping parade from Hounslow, Martindale Road is one side, the Manor Avenue is on the other side. In summer, sometime gang, they come and play cards, but then they those people who are innocent people, sometimes they come and they then try to pickpockets are also there. So I think this is the problem we used to face. I'll see this summer what happens.
Okay, I'll get the team to contact you and you could arrange maybe a walk around the ward or something together and just highlight the problems you're highlighting now.
Yes. I will welcome.
Okay. And with that, we move on to Councillor Sumra, please.
Thank you, Chair, at last. The trend of violence I want to find, ask about October, November, December. 8, 9, 9 is keep on and plus theft. How many, people brought into justice and what have they done with them? Another thing I want to know is, we asked on last meeting from the police if they can come about between 8 and 9:30 in the evening to the shops, just patrol that, because troublemakers come to the shop, especially for the off license. Keep eye on them. Deter them in front of the tube station. They come out of the train and they start bullying them.
Is this Hounzo West, sorry?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I just wanted to clarify that was Hounzo West ward that you were talking about, and the parade of shops opposite the train station.
Hello?
Yeah, it is Hounslow West they're talking about. The parade of shops right in front of the station.
Okay, that's fine. I'll pass that on. Just for Hounzo West, they've got slightly less officers at the moment because one of their officers is restricted, so that may seem that there's slightly less of them on the street at the moment, but the rest of the team is out and about. But I will pass on your concerns in relation to that parade of shops. Should be patrolling those on a day-to-day basis anyway.
Thanks, officer.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. All right. Councillor Sumra, can you mute your microphone, please? And Councillor Madiha Asim, I'm going to apologise to you again. They've left you off the list and I've missed you. You should have been the first one. So sorry. So I will request the officers, please be careful when you're making up the list from which I'm reading from. But Councillor Madiha Asim, any questions?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. And that's okay. These things do happen sometimes. Having listened to Sergeant, I think it's fantastic that we're going to be having more officers because I think visibility was something that the residents brought up, saying we don't see anybody on the streets. My only question is, do we have a figure in terms of ratio from male to female officers? Because sometimes female residents have said we'd rather approach a female officer. Are you able to provide any data on that?
Are you Hounzo Central? Sorry.
I'm Hounzo Heath, sorry.
Hounzo Heath.
Yes.
Okay. Hounzo Heath at the moment, I don't think has a female officer.
Okay.
But there are quite a lot of female officers within neighbourhoods at Hounzo. Hounzo Central has 3 female officers. Hounzo West has a female officer. Heston, a lot of the Heston wards have female officers. So there's quite a large actually representation of female officers within neighbourhoods at Hounslow. As to a percentage, I'd say at least it's got to be 40%, I would say, if not higher than that at the moment, as well as a mix of people from all different backgrounds and ethnic backgrounds. We're very lucky in that respect that we're quite well cover basically, you know, all those different groups. So we're quite diverse in that way at Hounslow, which is very good news, I think, for the public in general.
Thank you for that. That's very positive to hear. Thank you, Chair. That's all from me.
Thank you. And I see that Councillor Tom Bruce has joined us now. And Tom, do you have any questions from Sergeant Nottage?
Chair, thank you. Apologies for being late. I was at a cabinet briefing meeting. I don't have any questions. Just to say, from a Hounslow South perspective, I'd just like you to pass on my thanks to the officers who are really, I think, since they're quite a relatively new team, have really stepped up their presence. I know Shahida said that they're not necessarily see them walking around, and there's only 3 of them or 4 of them, and that can be difficult. If you're not in the right place, you're not going to see them. But the street briefings that they've been carried out, their engagement with trying to get a chair of the ward panel, the visibility in terms of getting in touch with residents, a few concerns about car thefts and stuff, and I've passed on details and they've got back very quickly, and even a couple of cases where really wasn't the police's job to intervene, but they still rang those residents and reassured them about some things. So, from a council perspective, looking at this new team, I'm really impressed, and long may it continue. Thank you.
Can I say thank you very much for that, because the team have been working really hard, and really rejuvenated with energy, because they're getting positive feedback now from the community, and it's spurring them on to do more and more. So thank you very much, and I'll be happy to pass that message on to them.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, I want to echo what Councillor Bruce just said for Hounslow Central as well. The alleyway between Kingsley Road and North Drive, there have been a few arrests there, and it's fantastic. The residents are really happy to see such police presence, so fantastic. So I just want to thank you very much, Sergeant Nottage, for your report, for giving us your time today, and I hope you'll take the feedback back. We'll see you in the next area forum. Sorry, Councillor Chopra, you want to say something?
Yeah, just a quick word, if I could. Could I just mention, you mentioned street surgeries. Is it possible to do that in Hounslow West, if we could? Because I haven't seen a lot of that going on at Hounslow West. I think there's probably been a change of police officers, so it would be nice to meet them and get to know them a bit better. If we could, you mentioned doing a ward walkabout as well earlier, so I'd welcome that too.
I will certainly pass that on to the team, Councillor Chopra.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so very much, Sergeant Nottage. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Have a good meeting. Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And with that, we move on to agenda item number 3, but we've moved it around, so we're going to go to agenda item number 5, which is an update on the council's grant funding programmes, and that's Kate Wilson. So over to you, Kate.
Hello, thank you, Councillor. I'm just going to share some slides which I believe have been circulated with the agenda. So this is just a bit of information for future reference. Let me just check that's all working. Can everybody see that?
Yeah, yes. We can see them, Kate.
Brilliant, thank you. So I was just going to begin by reminding the councillors that we still have funding available through the Your Neighbourhood grant, which is a new grant scheme that was launched in, I think, back in September, which is for councillors to work with local community groups or groups of residents who would like to apply for a grant of up to £1,000. And I know some of the councillors in Hounslow Central who have already put forward some great applications which we've been able to fund through this scheme. Obviously, I don't want to go through all the detail too much, but we have a few priority areas which the projects can be linked to, but equally, if your communities are coming to you and they have identified particular needs, then we're very open to considering the needs of your communities. So please do feel free to kind of bring forward things which might not exactly fit into these 4 kind of priority areas. But if there are projects which meet some of these needs, it's obviously focused on making the community greener by improving the local environment, responding to needs of the local communities, that's a quite open one, improving health and well-being and increasing the level of community engagement and interaction. So we do have a deadline quite fast approaching, so this is why I thought it would be a good reminder for everyone. And what I wanted to also say is that if you would like a bit more information or feel it would be useful to either have a meeting with myself or my colleague Michelle about this grant fund, or if you would like to make an introduction to one of your community groups or some residents who are interested in applying, then myself and Michelle are very open and willing to make appointments with you at times to suit you. So please do feel free to get in touch, and our contact details appear later in this presentation as well. But while I'm here, I also wanted to just remind you that we do have other grant funds available. So we've got a small grant fund, which again is up to £1,000 available for voluntary sector groups and groups of residents. So we try to keep this very open. They don't have to be constituted groups. It could be a group of residents who would like to do something, run a community event. We've had things like litter picks or kind of Christmas celebrations for particular groups. All those kind of things are very welcome through that fund. Again, we will be accepting applications up until the 1st of March for this financial year, but then we will reopen again, and our dates for next financial year will be confirmed quite soon. We have a larger grant scheme for revenue grants, which runs twice a year. Again, we don't have our dates just yet, but we've just awarded a large tranche of funding to a number of groups across the borough through our revenue round 2. And again, if you would like any more information about this, please do kind of let us know, and we're happy to have discussions about that. And another one which is quite relevant for councillors who might have residents coming to them wanting to make improvements to local community venues, so community halls or green spaces that they would like to see some work go into. We accept sort of expressions of interest for capital grants. And again, this is quite an open process, so you don't have to be a constituted group. You can be a resident who's kind of keen on, as I say, might be refurbishing a community hall or doing some clearing of vegetation in a particular green space, or other things that we funded recently have been kind of improvements to a path around a recreation ground, or it might be a site of historical interest. So that it's very open, and again, we're here to kind of talk to you about any ideas that you have or members of your communities might have come to you with. And the PowerPoint has some more information and links through to sort of guidance notes and things about those funds. But again, myself and my colleague Michelle are here to have a chat with you if you are interested in finding out a bit more about any of this funding. I will pause there, and if there are any questions, happy to take them.
Thank you very much for that, Kate. And yeah, that's given all the councillors something to think about. As you say, we've had a couple of grants given in our area, in our ward, and that's fantastic. So with that, again, I'm going to ask all councillors, I will invite you alphabetically to ask any questions you want of Kate. So we'll start with Vice Chair Karen Smith.
Thanks, Ajma. Nothing at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. And Councillor Madiha Hassan.
Thank you very much, Chair. No, I think Kate's covered it pretty well, so nothing from me either. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Tom Bruce. Hello.
No, nothing from me either.
Nothing. Councillor Jobra.
I'm fine, thanks.
Okay, Councillor Pritham Gariwal.
Yes, Chair, thank you. Yeah, we have done a couple of grants already in our ward, and this Wednesday we were invited by Slopian, it's a Slopian Park. I think they got a grant from us.
Gardens.
And there were a lot of people there. They're so happy with that, because this is the place looked after by volunteers normally, and they give training to the young people, families, how to look after their garden. They come there and do their gardening there, take the veggies home. So it's quite a sort of eye opener when you go there and have a look there. So they're really happy. Thank you for that. And I've got another couple of places in mind. We still have 1,000 left, I think, in Hounslow Central. So
Yes,
we'll
there
leave
is
that to
still
you.
budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vikram Gariwal.
Thank you, Chair. Kate, thank you for the very comprehensive presentation. I think you'll see a few Hounzo Heath applications coming through, mainly because I just messaged a few of the organisation leads whilst you were giving your presentation as well. So thank you for it.
Councillor Kearney. Councillor Afzal Kearney, any questions? No, pop for a cup of tea. Councillor Shahida Mirban.
Thank you, Chair. No, not at the moment, nothing, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Jagdish Sharma. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Jagdish Sharma on the West Ward. Chair, I will see Kate, I think, next week, while talking to my colleagues. There are certain groups two groups have already approached me, third one. Perhaps I ask them to contact you straight away. I don't know whether they have done or not, but certainly next week I'll come and we will, after talking to our colleagues. Thank you. It's the first time I think the council took this initiative. Very welcome.
Thank you. Councillor Somra.
Well, we will talk. Thank you, Chair, and we will talk together and come back to you.
Okay, that's fantastic. So, Kate, thank you very, very much. Great job. Keep it up and we'll be in touch, yeah?
Great, thank you.
Thank you so very much. And with that, we move on to, where are we? Agenda item number 4, which is Emerging Hounslow Character and Design Codes. And this is presented by Danielle Edmund and by Louisa. Sorry, Louisa, I haven't got your surname.
Sorry,
but it's over to both of you.
Chair. Sorry.
Yeah.
We missed one.
Sorry, Chair. Hello.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
Should have been. Whilst this is agenda item 4, it's actually agenda item 3 on the agenda because we brought number 5.
Oh yes.
To number 3.
Yes.
So sorry, Louisa and Danielle, but
they got really excited thinking they could go home quick. But okay, sorry. Agenda item number 3, of course, Summer of Culture, that is. And this is presented by Aretha George. So Aretha, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm just putting the presentation up on the screen. Please, could you let me know if you can see that?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so for those that didn't hear my introduction, my name's Aretha George. I'm the Culture Manager for Hounslow and I'm leading on this work of Hounslow Summer of Culture, which I've got a few slides to just tell you all about. So Summer of Culture is a 3-month programme of arts, culture and sport between June and August this year. The programme really is designed to provide opportunities for everyone to engage in culture. So whoever you are, wherever you live in the borough, then you should be able to participate in some way. And it's one of the council's objectives for their recovery plan, One Hounslow Forward Together. But Summer of Culture also supports other strands, and the aim is to make sure that we're developing culture economy, so supporting and growing the visitor economy into Hounslow, showcasing local leisure and culture, providing opportunities for volunteering and skills development for young people and adults, really recognising the diversity of our communities and providing spaces and support for them to shape and deliver their own activity. But we also want to help the culture sector engage with new audiences and tackle inequality. So encouraging community wealth building and building local economy as well. I'll talk a bit more about the Women's Euros, but we do have a focus on sport and UEFA local targets to encourage young people and families in sport and active, good health and well-being. So Summer of Culture will encompass all of that. Activity will be centred around the 3 pillars that we're calling that are on the screen at the moment. So that's space, people and place. So spotlighting creativity to highlight spaces across the borough, and this might be trails or tours to help people explore the borough in very different ways, or it might be outdoor performance, showcasing historic estates and helping people understand the history and the heritage of our borough. But we also want to enable and support the celebration of culture and engagement at local level. So we've opened a small grants programme to create local interventions, and we're working with Ealing and Hounslow CVS to provide opportunities for local people to volunteer and develop skills throughout the programme. And then the third area is supporting Hounslow's ambitions to be a destination. So wanting to deliver a programme that attracts new people into the borough as well as move people around the borough. With the Women's Euros taking place in July and 4 matches at Brentford Community Stadium, this puts a spotlight on the whole of Hounslow, and we want to ensure visitors know what we have to offer as a borough. So very briefly, these are the targets that the Football Association have set out for the Women's Euros in Hounslow. There's a big legacy programme which is attached to make sure that more women and girls go into the sport as coaches, as referees, as well as players, but also introducing sport to new audiences. And our leisure team are working closely with sports providers right across the borough to ensure that we reach as many diverse groups as possible. The local targets here are around London targets, so 24 Wildcat providers, which are the young age group, ensuring that they spring up and provide those opportunities, engage in schools, developing the FA qualified referees and FA qualified female coaches as well. Brent is one of our delivery boroughs because they have Wembley Stadium, Hounslow through Brentford Community Stadium, and Ealing due to its proximity with Brentford. So we've heard from groups and our engagement teams that our residents are getting a bit of survey fatigue. There's been quite a lot of surveys that have gone out. So we've been looking at different ways to really get some engagement with our residents and understand what they want to see during these 3 months in summer. I'm speaking to all types of forums up until the end of February to really input into the programme. And I'm also keen to hear from organisations or community groups that are putting on their own events, because we really want them to be part of this programme. We really want it to be a collaborative piece. We're working together with our community development team and our engagement team to make sure that we're going into the heart of those communities whose voices we don't often hear. And part of that is me attending the area forums as well to make sure that we spread this as widely as possible. What I don't have on my slide is that we are developing a members pack. So we'll have full information about what Summer of Culture will be, so you can talk to the community groups that you work with, but also you can look and see where you might want to input as well. And we will shortly be flooding our leisure centres with postcards and hoping that people will share their views and comments about what they want to see and engage with, so that we can collect them all and make sure that the programme is much more tailored for a wide host of people. I'm going to move on to this slide here, which just very quickly a word map that just shows what people are wanting to see and do at the moment based on the engagement that we've had so far, and we're weaving this into the programme. The penultimate slide is about our community grant. So we've been talking to our Thriving Communities team, so Kate and Michelle, about thriving communities, and we know that it is always heavily oversubscribed with the revenue funding, and we didn't want this to be an issue for Summer of Culture. We didn't want that to stop people from having funds to deliver their own events. So there is a grant that has been set up. It was launched earlier this month. The grant thresholds are up to £2,000 and then between £2,000 and £5,000, so 2 different thresholds. We had a briefing session for community groups and individuals on the 17th of January, which was well attended, and we have another one on the 7th of February. We're collaborating with Thriving Communities, as I said, to make sure that there's some consistency across our grant programmes, but also we're really wanting to make sure that we're opening it up to those groups that haven't applied to Hounslow funding before, as well as those that have. The themes for this funding is around cultural activity, so art programming, but also sport and physical activity to really tie into the Women's Euros as well, and make sure that people can engage in projects at a local level there as well. And we'll be basing decisions on the quality of the idea, the audiences that the projects are going to reach, but also really using the good ward inequality data that we have at our disposal in Hounslow to understand how people engage, where they engage least, and making sure that we target that. Evaluation will be in place, and we're thinking that we'll be able to fund approximately 35 to 40 projects, 8 of which will sit in that £2,000 to £5,000 bracket. So finally, we're sending the message out to the community and our residents to email the Summer of Culture inbox, which is summerofculture@hounslow.gov.uk, if they have any suggestions of what they'd like to see. Emailing us if they have an event that they want to be part of the programme between June and August. To fill out the comments card, which should be in libraries and leisure centres from the 7th of February. And also to email us if they'd like an application form to apply for our community grant. And I will stop that there. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Yeah, fantastic. That's lovely. Great summer to look forward to, it seems like, in Hounslow Borough. Okay, any questions or input or comments for Aretha? Karen Smith?
Thank you, Aretha. That all sounds really exciting. I don't have any questions at this stage, but I'm really looking forward to this. Thank you.
Yeah, me too. Councillor Mehdi Hassim?
No questions from me, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Tom Bruce?
No, none from me.
Okay. Councillor Chopra? Tanzan Chopra? Hello, Councillor Chopra?
Hi, sorry about that. Yeah, no, it sounds great. Enjoyed listening to that and hope to get involved. Yeah, but no questions. Thanks.
Good. Councillor Pritham Gariwal?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just a simple question first. How do we sort of communicate with our communities? Can I suggest something as well? Can we involve our religious places like mosques, gurdwaras, temples, and churches? And a lot of people go there. They can have a look at this, what we're doing. If it's possible, just add that into the communication, please. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and I am working with Joan to make sure that we are going to hit the faith communities and various groups around faith. Yeah. And the members pack will have the information on how you can reach out to communities and share that information, and it should be coming very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vikram Garewal.
Thank you, Chair. Reece, thank you for the really good presentation. Similar to Karen and Adrian, I'm really looking forward to this. I'm sure all our colleagues are. There's a really important point about temples, because their footfall is just a natural place to get feedback, and quite an easy one for us. Similar to our youth engagement piece that I'm working with Councillor Bruce on the cabinet position, is about using QR codes as a way for people to get these surveys on their devices in a lot more of an easier fashion than going to or typing a link in and so forth. Are we utilising QR codes to collect feedback?
We've had mixed feedback about QR codes, so if that's updated, that's fantastic, and we'll definitely use them. But we've had mixed feedback, particularly on the communities that have got digital exclusion as well. So I think that's another method that we could use and could be utilising. So I'll go to our communications team and make sure that we're including that where we can. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Afzal Kani. Councillor Ghani? No. Councillor Mehriban, Shaida Mehriban.
First of all, well done, Aretha. It's a fantastic project, I think, that Hounslow are about to do. And yes, I'm just going to touch a little bit on, obviously we need to get the religious places involved, because obviously they're the heart and soul of all communities. And I think the more that the word gets out there, the more participation and understanding we may get from our communities. Also, maybe touching base with health centres and playgroups and places like that, they would be good too, because I can imagine not just adults, but I can imagine all those young children getting so much out of this event. And I think, overall, there's just so much on offer that every single age group can, enjoy something. And I think for children especially, it'll be a wonderful place to be. So, yeah, well done, Aretha.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jagdish Sharma. Hello, Councillor Sharma. Any questions, input to Aretha?
Yeah. Yes. I think, first of all, I'm very pleased to hear that in Hounslow we are going to have now making Hounslow a good place where there are lots of activities. It used to be some years back. All sorts of, we have top singers, all sorts of people used to come. But because of the coronavirus and all sorts of problems, I think there is nothing for the last 2-3 years. I haven't seen anything, especially taken any initiative by the council. But council used to take, let me tell you, that all sorts of artists used to come and perform. I hope we can start that again. And there will be, there are 2-3 groups. I'll contact them, direct them to meet you and see you, discuss their.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Samra.
Thank you, Chair. I think Mr. Preetham Garewal put it rightly. They should display into the religious place. It will be even more informative to the general public. Thank you very much. You're doing a good job.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Aretha. We've got a lot to think about. You've got a lot to think about and to look forward to as well. We look forward to all the events. So keep up the good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you all, and enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
Bye.
And with that, we move on to agenda item number 4, which is Emerging Hounslow Character and Design Codes. And this is presented by Danielle Edmund and by Louisa.
Thank you, Chair. So we're here tonight to talk a little bit about our emerging character and design study. And this is following extensive engagement with communities and our residents in developing this. And then we're also hopefully going back to consultation again in March to develop it even more. So next slide, Louisa, please. So the study looks at the existing character and context of the areas and neighborhoods in the whole borough. So it looks at things, sorry, if you go back one, Louisa. Okay, so it looks at things like the quality of the buildings in each area, neighborhoods, the public realm, the quality of the public realm, the quality of our green spaces, of our transport links, of our community facilities, the types of uses in these neighborhoods. And then what we then do is we then work with our community and residents of each neighborhood to understand what they think their neighborhoods are, you know, how they identify themselves with it, and also what are the issues that they encounter in the environment, and working with them to help kind of develop proposals and design codes in order to tackle these issues in their area. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the study will be an SPD, so which means that it will give further guidance to local plan policies and London plan policies. And it's meant to also not only bring forward well-designed buildings, but also it's meant to kind of, you know, find out from the community what are the spaces and the places that they want to protect and work towards doing that. What are the places that they want to enhance? So we kind of work with them to develop small interventions and proposals in order to improve the area. And what are places that they want to transform? So bigger interventions where they feel that there are bigger issues to tackle. And this would be a material consideration when a planning application is made. So therefore, a developer cannot ignore it. So hopefully it will bring about well-designed developments from the developers, but not only that, it will allow the developers to give us from still in section 106, so developers' contribution towards delivering some of these proposals that we come up with the community. Next slide. Great. And as I mentioned before, we had extensive community engagement. It's informal engagement to shape this document already, to shape the study. And we're going back to have more extensive engagement to further shape this document. So we had lots of surveys and workshops with the community. And what we're hoping to do is to have more workshops and hopefully try and have targeted people like, you know, the police and stuff like that in order to develop more design codes to tackle, you know, design out crimes and the perception of crime and whatnot. But just to give you a little flavor of what came out of the survey from the residents and the community in Central Hounslow is that they really love the variety of food shops, and it's the best thing that they have in Hounslow High Street. So they really do appreciate the variety of food shops in Hounslow High Streets. They use their parks quite a lot in their area, so you know it's well used. They think that, you know, this particular neighborhood has excellent transport links and a good range of essential shops. However, their concerns are the impact of tall buildings that they see going around them. They're concerned about the conversion of garage to dwellings, so that kind of, you know, overdevelopment. And they're concerned about their neighbors' poor quality extensions and poor quality buildings in the area. So what the character and design studies seek to do is to identify appropriate locations for tall buildings to have less of an impact, to work with the community to develop design guidance to improve the look and the feel of buildings coming forward. As I mentioned before, it will be a material consideration for in planning applications. And we'll even look at things like what makes local distinctive material, because we know it's not only about the design, but the materials that the developers use, that development uses. So what do the community think are really, really good material that will improve buildings and improve the public realm and things like that. And also we're going to revise our residential extension guides to get better extensions in the neighborhood. And now I'm going to hand you over to Louisa, who's going to take you through a bit more detail of this character and design. Louisa?
Yep. Thank you, Danley. So our survey also kind of asked people about how to define their neighbourhood boundaries. So we started off looking at the old character study, which people really love, and we looked at how we can make those boundaries more neighbourhood based, covering what people think is their neighbourhood in terms of where they live, where they shop, where they work. So we asked for comment on those draft boundaries and the central area and the areas around Hounslow West and Hounslow Heath. We got a really positive response. People thought that those boundaries really reflected what they thought were their neighbourhoods. So these are quite important because we can create visions for them and define what is characterful at a very local level. So we had another workshop with stakeholders in March last year, and that was to define visions for each sub area. So residents told us in Central Hounslow that they really wanted to re-green front gardens, take all the parking away, or not all of it, some of it, so retain the old buildings and have better north-south access in the town centre. They wanted to have a community building in South Hounslow to facilitate some community discussions there, and they really wanted to improve the links between the train stations. So in the document, there's a vision that reflects all those community ambitions. So we have new routes through the town centre. We have really much more green town centre and streets, and we really want to improve the connections to green spaces as well. And then also there's that hub to be established at Hounslow train station in the south to facilitate those community discussions. So then we had another workshop with residents where we really asked them to come up with some design aspirations for their local areas. And people told us that in Central Hounslow, they really thought they wanted to respect local character, and that was really important to them. They really liked brick as a building material. They really liked innovative contemporary design, and that was some of the best buildings in Hounslow. They also told us that biodiversity was really important and that raising design quality was a real big priority for them. So I'll show you on the next few slides how the document responds to that and tries to deliver those ambitions. So the document has design codes at a number of different scales. So we have borough codes, we have sub-area and neighbourhood codes, and we have some typology codes. So typologies are similar types of buildings or sites, so waterfront sites or extensions. And then finally, we have design codes on a few major sites that are in our local planners allocations, so we can give really detailed design guidance on those. So the borough codes define principles which all development should try to achieve. So things like resilient local centres that meet residents' needs, and buildings that are fit for purpose and made to last, and also trying to improve our natural assets as well. We have a code at the borough-wide level which ensures that we deliver greening, and also design guidance that improves the design of buildings to make sure they're secure and that the waste facilities are well designed and they don't damage the character of streets. And we also want to make sure that residents' privacy is protected in new development. Those are just some examples. And we have some other borough-wide codes to make sure that tall buildings are located in the right places and that they're designed well so they impact positively on local character. And we've also updated our residential extension guidelines and our shopfront guidelines in that document as well. So then we have neighbourhood codes for every neighbourhood area. So here's an example one here for Hounslow Town Centre. The document sort of details the character of Hounslow Town Centre and identifies a vision for that area. So for the town centre, it's about enhancing the treaty centre to fix the blank frontages and fix the sort of traffic-dominated environment around there. It's about intensifying underused sites, but still respecting the historic buildings and encouraging high-quality design, and also identifying the appropriate density for buildings in the area and the types of locally distinctive materials, which you can see brick there, which is what the community wanted, and that should inform any new development that comes forward. So then we have these typology codes, which are design guidance on certain types of sites to make sure that we bring forward the best design across the borough on those sites. So we want to make sure that backland sites have good access, town centre sites have well-designed streets and active frontages, and arterial routes have good design in terms of form and their height, and that waterfront buildings relate to the water and reflect that really waterfront character. And we also need to consider climate change at the heart of all those buildings' design. Then we also have some site codes as well on some of our major allocations and other sites. So in Hounzo West, we have a lot of development coming forward in the local plan. So we want to make sure that the public realm in this area contributes to that development and supports the new growth here. So we got some feedback about this at our workshops, and we've tried to incorporate that into code. So it's making sure that development is thought about in a really comprehensive way. So the code looks at things like less tarmac and more high quality paving, improving pedestrian crossings and improving air quality, having a really positive level of greening and really wide pavements so people can enjoy the cafes and enjoy spending time in Hounslow West. And then the conclusions from the study tells us what we need to conserve, which is what needs protecting, what we should enhance, which is where we can improve quality through sort of gentle intensification, and where we should transform character, which is key areas of change, which would benefit from sort of larger interventions where we can take the areas to another level and really deal with those community issues. And finally, as Danielle said, we have consultation coming up in March and April, and we're planning to have in-person workshops, which will also have an online element for those who feel less COVID comfortable, obviously COVID dependent on the in-person ones. But we're also seeking workshops with young people and other equalities groups to get feedback on all cultural issues and other specific issues as well. So thanks so much for listening, and happy to take any questions or respond by email if people want to email us as well.
Thank you very much for that, Danielle and Louisa. Fantastic, very good. And with that, we will start the questions. So Councillor Karen Smith as Vice Chair first.
Thank you, Ajma. I think I'm going to have lots of questions about this, but I don't have any right now. Thank you. It looks really interesting. It looks really exciting, and lots of thought gone into it. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
As they say, you can always email them with anything. Okay, Councillor Madi Hassim.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to second what Councillor Karen Smith just said, but thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Tom Bruce.
Thank you, Ajma. Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed reading this when we got the pack last week. I think I read it earlier in the week. I mean, I love a report with a map in. I like maps, slightly geeky of me, but there were a lot of them, and you know, it sort of gave a really good explanation of exactly what has been done and how we're going to try and do things, and what we're going to do in the future. I mean, I'm really pleased that we're continuing this sort of process of consultation and looking, you know, out for young people and whatever. I think that's really good. It's going to sound like a moan, this. My slight reservation, I mean, I've been a councillor for 12 years now, and I've probably seen the sort of phrase better sight lines or better access or better understanding of where the town centre is from the train station and the tubes. So, you know, when I was first a councillor, I'm sure I saw that. Maybe 4 years later, I saw it again. I mean, I don't know, I've seen it again. And still, when you come out of the train station, you have no idea where the town centre is. I mean, that's just one specific thing. I know I'm picking on things and it sounds like a moan, but it's how we take, you know, that is a really annoying thing for me. And the same with the tube, you just don't know where it is. Anyway, it's how we take this. These are really good ideas and these are really good things that people are saying. You know, the same with the shop frontage. You know, there are some excellent examples in Hounslow of how the buildings and the shop frontages work. You know, are modern, but also looking back to the history. And there are some terrible examples as well. And those terrible examples have been there for years. And my point is, we've talked about this before, and it's just how we get to a point where these things are moved on. I know we do a great amount of work. Both of you, I know, do a great amount of work. So I'm not, you know, having a go at you. I'm not saying this is the wrong thing to do. But it is just, you know, some of these little things just become frustrating. And if they're frustrating for me, they're going to be frustrating for lots of people. And part of that is, you know, I've spoken to a couple of people about this and they say, well, we just say the same thing and it doesn't seem to get through. And that's kind of my sort of concern here, that we've got some really wonderful ideas, some really good things that people are saying, some really good things that we're going to try and do, but it's getting through to the end. So it wasn't a question. I promise it wasn't really a moan, but it is just a sort of plea to, you know, and certainly just something outside the Hounzo train station. Anyway, thank you, Chair. Sorry.
I could
Okay,
give you
I'll
a quick response in
Okay.
that basically I share your concerns because I live in Isleworth and sometimes you don't know where things are, and
The
you know,
same when you come out
Riverside
anyway,
there.
sorry,
Yeah.
yes.
But what we're planning to do here is because there's things that is out of our control unless the council decides to compulsory purchase and move some of the buildings and get the sight lines and stuff like that. But there's things that are in our control. But what we're trying to do here is we're trying to make sure it's delivery focus and community focus, because what we do now when we get this adopted is we're going to get developers' contributions to start actually implementing some of these things. So things like improving the signage and then creative way of doing the signage, you know, of telling us where the town, where the stations are and stuff like that. So we really, really want this going forward to be a very dynamic document. And what makes it dynamic is that hopefully we'll get the funding in order to actually deliver the proposals that we think are needed in different neighborhoods and the community think is needed in different neighborhoods. So, you know, going forward, hopefully this will work better because it's tied into delivery. So
I hope so. I'm the eternal optimist, so I'm very confident.
So am I.
I certainly hope so, Danielle. What we're going to do is to prove everyone wrong by doing things now, so people don't get a chance to say they listen but they don't do anything. So we're going to do them. Yeah, exactly. Right. Councillor Chopra, please. Any questions, comments?
Comments, yes. Thought it was great. I look forward to seeing some of this stuff, especially around Hounslow West, because we need to refurbish and bring it more up to date. So it'll be great to see the details plans. Thank you, Danley.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Britham, very well.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, very good report, Danley. You said what I was going to say. Signage. We have to improve on our signage. Definitely, people are lost when they come out of stations. Where is our town centre? Where's things are? You know, the signage we need to improve. Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Councillor Vikram Gariwal.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Danley and Louise, for the presentation. The signage point, I won't touch on that again because I think it's been covered. But one thing I will say that really delighted me about this report was kind of from an architectural perspective and just generally bringing out the heritage of Hounslow and different areas of our wards, not just in this forum, but other ones, and really talking about that more. I think as a borough, we could do that more and talk about it better because we have such a rich heritage and history, but we just do not talk about it and point to it as much as other boroughs. And I wish we did, because then more people will feel happier about Hounzo and know about our heritage, some of the people that have lived here, what they've done here. And it's a real positive story as well. So as far as I can see, the proof will always be in the pudding, as Councillor Bruce alluded to, but this touches on that. And that's been such a need for a long time. So that really made me happy. And the observation that Councillor Bruce has, you know, I was in the High Street last weekend and I was outside Boots. And I just turned around and looked at I'm not just saying those shops, but this is just an example, that above those shops, like Boots and, you know, Sports Direct and what have you, they look so tired and so dreary. And I know it's not in our control, maybe through a business rates subsidy or some sort of incentive to give these owners to actually spruce up their shops, because it'll just lift the high street and the whole energy there. Because when you look at the new Bell Corner one, where there's that dessert parlor, sushi place, there'll be a trampoline park and what have you, it's chalk and cheese difference. It's what it should be compared to what it always was, and we need to really get some synergy going there. So if we can, and let me know, I'll be happy to get behind it to help those guys come along the way. And new liquor paint goes a long way.
The answer to that is yes, it's definitely part of the plan. So we did realize that, and we're trying to bring it all that kind of same quality of the high street quarter. So yes, it's in there. So yeah, hopefully. Optimist again.
Thank you. Councillor Afzal Ghani. I think Councillor Ghani has left the meeting ages ago. Councillor Shaida Mirban.
I don't really want to repeat everything else that's been said, but I'm sure that everyone here can remember that, you know, when you're walking along the high street and people are asking, where's Hounzo Central Station? Or where's Hounzo West from here? And I mean, that is such a common question. And really, our town centre, we've got to make the most of it and try and, you know, it's almost like a little city that's almost like lost within itself. You know, we've got to bring it up. We've got to bring it to life a bit more. Signage. I mean, if you take ideas from many, many other towns, you've got some beautiful signages, you know, that really capture your eye and you think, oh, God, that looks nice. You know, I mean, we've got three, I mean, you know, we've got tube stations, not just one, but we've got three here. You know, we should be proud of what we have, and signage works a long way. I mean, even, you know, we've got famous stars that have been born and bred and made fame here in Hounslow, but there's nothing. I mean, when you think of Van Gogh, there's a building in Isleworth, there's nothing that actually tells us the history of Hounslow. And really, if anyone comes into Hounslow, they think, oh, it's just a boring old town, but actually it's far from it. And it's our job to make sure that we can highlight all of that, that actually it's not boring Hounslow, but actually it's full of culture.
Yeah.
So let's see what you can come up with.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Jagdish Sharma. Can you unmute, please, Councillor Sharma?
Thank you very much. First of all those ideas you have just tried to tell us certainly are very inspiring, but I will be very happy if even 1/4 are implemented, those ideas. I think it is important. My colleague said so many things. Bandana Chopra, my colleague from Hounslow West, she's right to say even the London mayor is rolling in money, taking money from the councils. What does he spend? He doesn't think about doing anything for the buildings so that they should attract, railway station should be attractive. I just went after some months to see in Southall, then new station and old station. What a difference it makes. So I think that some authorities need to take some initiative, do something for those building and the property extra, where they can spend. They should spend really. Otherwise, they will be left far behind, and people will say, "Oh, Hounslow West is now 18th century town." So let us see. I think it's good to encourage people to implement some of the ideas which you just said. But one thing I disagree with you when that in the garages make it change it into a living room. I think that's not very nice idea. There are already people have done these things, but it's not not openly that people should see that. They are afraid that the council is not going to give them any planning permission. But personally, I feel that in the garages to how much you can improve, or you can say, all right, whatever is the size of your garage, you can build at the back of you if you have got good garden. Then there could be some sort of a small flat, if it is. But many things are very good. The others, I think for some things I am not very keen that those should be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharma. And Councillor Sohan Samra, please. Anything?
Thank you, Chair. I agree with Councillor Tom, Bruce. And I got a little bit different views than the rest of them. All that presentation looks very nice on the paper. It's Hounslow West is really overdeveloped, because what happened, they're talking about planning. Look at the Morrison. They spoiled the Rosemary Avenue. They can see every person sitting or eating or lying down from the back right on the top of it. And that if somebody want to do a developing on the loft, they say, oh no, it's overlooking. What sort of planning we talking about? One for the rich, one for the poor. A household can't get a planning for 10 by 10. and these so-called big company, they can build 20, 19, 15, whatever they like. It's two rules. But what are we talking about the planning? Who's planning? It's completely different. I mean, there are two laws, one for the money, one for the working class. I'm sorry to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. That's what they're trying to sort out with the new planning coming in, aren't they? All right. Thank you so very much, Janalee and Louisa. Thank you for your presentation. And it's great. Keep up the good work. Prove everybody wrong, yeah?
Yes, we'll do. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. Thank you so very much. Thank you. And with that, we move on to agenda item number 6, which is the open forum for questions from the public. And for this, we have a maximum of 30 minutes. Now, as far as I know, nothing has been submitted, but I'll stand corrected if Bill and John say otherwise.
No, Chair. I'm afraid nobody has.
Okay, great. Then we move on to agenda item number 7, which is any other matters that the Chair considers urgent. And no, there are no urgent matters which have been notified of. Agenda item number 8, date of next meeting. Well, it hasn't been confirmed, so we advise people to check the council website for details of the next Central Hounslow Area Forum meeting. And with that, all that remains for me to say is thank you so very much to all the members, to council officers and the ICT officers who were producing the meeting, and the Democratic Services and the APO supported it and organised it. Thank you so very much, everyone. Thank you to the public for watching, and hope you enjoyed the meeting. And